Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Leadership Talks podcast. This is Wilka Nascimento, your host. And today I have Nicole Basch. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yay, welcome, of course. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm loving the sunshine. Summer is going to be here in Kentucky soon. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Today was like very sunny in the morning, sunny now, so always well, 60 degrees. But yeah, very, very, very good to have you, Nicole. I know we cross paths in the hospitality
Yeah,
world. And today you are an area director of sales, correct?
I am. Yep.
Okay, awesome. So, how is it for you in this leadership role with three different teams?
Yes. So I represent three hotels in Northern Kentucky, two different brands, two major brands. And so I acquired this position in May of last year before it was just Marriott Properties. And then I was promoted in May to have the Hampton Inn. And with that, there's three different general managers. I report to all three of them equally. Um, I share them equally. One would say that I have three boyfriends, if you will, that I share. That is a direct quote. And with that being said, my approach is different for the different hotels. So each hotel has its niche. I like to say the Hampton Inn is great for your leisure guests and your corporate traveler guests. And the Hampton brand is so strong. My Courtyard also has a strong brand, but it has like a restaurant on site. I like to say it's similar to my former Hyatt Love, where it's a limited service hotel with a full service heart. And then right across the street is its home away from home, Kansas, if you will, Wizard of Oz reference, my residence inn, which is your extended stay guests. So each hotel has its niche. They're my babies. And then my general managers oversee everything. And they all have three different, very different personalities as well.
Wow, amazing. But you haven't started in the industry just, right off the back. Hey, I'm managing
Yeah,
three.
I did. I'm 5. Just kidding. No. I started in 2010. I was doing retail and fast food and hated every minute of it when I was 19. And so I lied to my parents, quit my job one night at Taco Bell and applied for different internships. One was a bed and breakfast internship in Rhinebeck, New York. And I did get that job. I was living in Michigan. I'm born and raised Michigan. And I worked at the Hideaway Suites, and my mentor there really believed in me, even though I was 19 and made silly decisions, as we all do at that age. And I am still friends with her to this day, and I would not be in this career without her. It was a lot of hard work. I was making beds. I was getting up in the morning, making coffee, talking to the Omega Institute folks. From there, I came back. I worked front desk. I was an executive housekeeper. Got fired from that job because I am not meant to be an executive housekeeper. So shout out to my housekeepers, because you have the hardest job in the building. And I moved from there to night audit, and I interviewed for a front or a sales coordinator job. And the person at the time, it was 2013. And the director of sales at that full service Hilton in Auburn Hills, Michigan, asked me the same question they always ask: where do you want to be in 5 years? And I said, I wanted to be a director of sales, boldly and confidently. And he said, I don't think you're going to be able to do that.
Okay, that was on your motivation, I suppose.
It lit a fire, because that was insulting to a very young 20-year-old girl, and with a male in leadership role, and the way he approached that. So I went back to that Hilton Garden Inn, and I worked really hard, and they created the sales coordinator job for me, moved up into a sales manager position, went to Hyatt Place Detroit Auburn Hills with Aimbridge. and learned so much there. I applied to be a director of sales when my 15-year director of sales quit, and they told me I was too green. Yet another male in leadership. And I was like, you know what? Okay, that's fine. So I did some full service sales, moved around, learned what to do, what not to do as a director of sales. And then my first director of sales job was 5 years, almost to the day of that interview, at the opening Detroit Royal Oak Hyatt Place.
Wow, huge congratulations, and I think the motivation here is amazing, right? Like, because in the end of the day too, like you said, you light a fire in a 20-year-old, and then you prove yourself that you can do that, right? Like, and especially, this is a point where I like to mention too, like sometimes you can't, like, oh, you are too green for this position. Yeah, but like, why are you holding me back? Why aren't
Right.
you mentoring me so I can get there with your
Yeah.
help? Right. Like,
Right.
because in the end of the day, I think hospitality is about relationships, and
Yeah.
sales and hospitality is nothing different,
Correct.
as you are familiar with it. But now, I think, Nikki, it's a great approach where I wanted to go to the next question is, what is your suggestions, right? Like, for the young ladies out there that are students, or want to change positions, and you want to get into the hospitality, because I think now our job is to inspire, right, like the young
Yeah.
generation of women in hospitality. So what would
Absolutely.
be the top three suggestions that you would give?
So one is, as you know, as we've talked about, we all have similar backgrounds. So one of my first things is even if you can do it part-time, start as like a front desk agent. Just start somewhere in a smaller position, if you will. Every position's important. I could not do what I do without my front desk teams. So with that said, I would say start somewhere in front desk. If they want to move into sales and they have a sales background, a sales coordinator position would be great. A group sales manager would be a great starting point. But I would say I have more respect for those that start at the bottom and work their way up and have a similar story, because I want to nurture them and help them if they want to work under me, to get them to that next level. But also, don't let no stop you. Like, number two, do not let no stop you. Even in sales, don't let no stop you. That's like the first rule of sales. Your no is your next step to your yes. Is the next step to the next opportunity. And you got experience from it. Every failure that you have in life, you're going to succeed at some point. You don't win without some failures along the way, some bumps along the roads. And so for women, it is harder, but the reward and the blessings on the other side is so worth it. And us hospitality folks, we respect and appreciate those that have it in their blood. I can't describe it. I know, Wilka, you know what I'm talking about. Those that have been doing this for such a long time, there's a reason. We're a unique brand of people. We may be over caffeinated, but we're a unique brand of people.
Been over caffeinated. I'm like, yeah, I cannot have coffee now. I'm like going on tea that is, not free caffeine, but oh well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally agree, because I also many times, right, like, and you're talking about failing and, being fired from a job, or why not? And that has happened to me. It has happened to, not everybody, but, maybe there's some lucky people that they haven't experienced that. But there is many different reasons, right? Like, why somebody let you go. I remember this woman, she hired me back in the day, and it was like a pre-opening hotel situation, and it was like a very stressful time. I think it was during a hurricane or something going on. I don't remember exactly what was happening, but she said, no, you cannot work from home, like, you have to do your job, you have to come in. And I was like, where I am, it's really not like the train wasn't working, right? So she said,
Mhm.
okay, you need to do this 3 proposals by end of the day. So I run to a Dunkin' Donuts because not even the Wi-Fi was working at my house. And I run to Dunkin' Donuts so I can do the proposals and send it on timely manner. And then she just like lash out on me like that I didn't know how to do math or some crazy stuff. And I was like, I couldn't like I was so shocked that this person was calling me literally like and you're an idiot, you know? And I was like, oh my gosh. I couldn't believe I was shocked. I was like speechless. But in the end of the day, I think like, running now probably I think what is it, 15 years or 18 years after that, right? I'm like, hey, you know what? Yeah, sure. My best approach for these situations is you live and you learn. I don't hold anything against that person because maybe I wasn't the right fit for the position and she didn't know how to
Right.
express herself to say, hey, I'm gonna walk you through how you do this, right? Or and then like what I had in my mind is wow, because when you are let go by something and the way the people put that out there, it's like how you don't take that personal, right? And I'm
Mhm.
like, there is a really a fine line on how somebody approaches a situation, how they handle that, right? Like with a green sales sprint manager, uh,
Mhm.
and then I just think, well, I guess she's better than me, and that's that. I'll go find my next opportunity, when people are gonna actually show me the steps in the ways that they wanted me to work and handle, business and so forth. But in the end of the day, like what don't kill you make you stronger, right?
And it's funny you should say that about being let go. And I agree with that. Sometimes I have people, they're not the right fit. And as a leader, I may adore them as a person and I would go hang out with them outside of work. But sometimes it may not, maybe the hotels require a little bit more than what you're able to offer. And your skill set is meant to be somewhere else. And it might just not be the right fit. And so I have experienced that from a leadership standpoint and from I'm not an executive housekeeper. I am so grateful I was let go from that job in the end because I've always wanted to be in sales. I bought some Mary Kay to try and get some sales experience, like to be a part of Mary Kay. Like I was doing anything and everything at that time in front desk world to try and be a salesperson.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I agree with you. Sometimes it's just not the right fit. And sometimes people don't know how to communicate that. I mean, I'm learning how to communicate every single day. And post pandemic, it is so difficult in sales right now to be um, a really good communicator because some people just don't know how to communicate anymore. And it's very sad.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that, actually comes to also like the new generation, right? Like of people. And, just
Mhm.
prior to this podcast, we were talking, I was like, yeah, I'm trying to build my brand here, right? But then when you are in a hotel, right? Like, and you have three different brands, or it's an independent property, or why not? Like, how do you differentiate that brand, that particular location from one or the other? And then like I had experienced myself when I was downtown DC, and it's like, well, it was so funny because the brand was like four other properties with the same brand name,
Mhm.
just like something like a neighborhood to differentiate, or why not? And then it's like, okay, well, this hotel is where I'm located, Wilco Nascimento, right? So because you people will work with you, and what does that property that you are marketing is going to offer? So
Mhm.
I started making videos, right? And then like over breakfast, or I even I invested in some like specific camera for my iPhone, and I was like launching videos. And like if I had if I was hosting a client event, I would ask, hey, it's okay for us to take photos, because I really believe, right, like the pictures it tells you so much more, right, about that event, how successful it was.
Mhm.
why not? So it's like the storytelling by videos, by pictures, and of course, being out there on the social media world, it's a job by itself, right? It's like, I don't know how you will handle that part for the 3 hotels, but I wanted to hear your experience, Nikki.
Sure. So I'm not gonna lie to you. My social media we are working on, like as we speak. That is a initiative that I'm letting the next generation help me out with, because I do, time is precious. With Commonwealth Hotels, which is who I work for now, and they've been wonderful since I've moved down here to Kentucky. I wouldn't change. They have a wonderful culture and philosophy. And so what makes us stand out, like even with my brands, I mean, I sell them as one big hotel, your one-stop shop. You work with maybe 1, maybe 2 people max to help you with detailing. But other than that, you don't have to go anywhere else. You need a Hilton product, I can help you out with that. You need a Marriott product, I can help you out with that. And so between that and then having one of the clients I just got last week, saying how wonderful Commonwealth is, and that every single person he meets is so genuine and authentic, and cares about what they do at the children's hospital, and genuinely cares, because I do. I mean, who doesn't care about children? I care about children, so I couldn't believe he was saying this, but apparently my company is doing it right. And we have I mean, we're enriching people's lives with genuine hospitality. That is our slogan. And then our mission, like one of the things we say all the time is whatever it takes. So I think that's what makes us stand out, because we're going to do whatever it takes, not only to win your business, win your trust, win your loyalty, and like I said, by being genuine and authentic and having something for everybody, having a niche for each hotel. Like my extended stay hotel, I got apartment style rooms. It may be a little bit older, but we have a staff that will give you excellent service. My Hampton Inn, the tenure there, because of the company, we have an executive housekeeper that's been there for 20 years. Wow. I mean, that's unheard of. She started at housekeeping and now she's an executive housekeeper, because we promote from within. And so to be able to tell that story to everyone, like clients, they believe it and they trust us, and we'll do whatever it takes to make sure that they have a successful stay, and that they're going to want to come back.
Yeah, I think that's the secret, right? Like you mentioned 2 words that resonate with me. It's like you have to be genuine, and you have to be authentic, because without, like, you are in sales, but also like you are, in the end of the day, when you travel for personal or business, the if people are being fake or not, right? Like,
yes.
like just by the hello, how are you today? Like or they're being not even fake, not even the word, but it's like mechanical, right? Like, because sometimes
just a number.
Yeah, like sometimes you answer the phone like, "Hi, this is Will. I'm sorry," and then people, when they reply, and then I'm always also like, "Okay, hi, how are you today?" Like, actually, how are you? Like, and people are like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'm good, thanks." And especially in the big cities, you see that a lot. Maybe that's why I don't travel to big cities as much as I used to.
They have a purpose. They're fun. I'm going to New York City later this year. I love New York City. I mean, you just know what you get. That's how I look at it. You know what you get.
Exactly. You're already prepared, right? Like mentally, you're like, okay, this is what it's New York. It's normal. But my question to you here is 3 different hotels, and you touched in being, genuine and being there for your clients and for your team members. But what is your leadership style, and how do you lead these 3 different hotels, not just leading internally the people that report to you, but also managing your managers? If you can
I'm so glad you said that. No, you gave me so much power. So I'll start with the easy one, where I'm a leader and I have a team underneath me. I won't go to the hard one after that. No. With that said, we currently are, we're hiring for a couple of sales managers right now. We're restructuring just to make things work a little bit more cohesively. But when I so between High Place, Royal Oak, and then here, I've been the same. I am the same person then as I am now. I'm just a little more seasoned, if you will. I age like fine wine. And so with that, my leadership style is very collaborative based. I am not a micromanager. I don't have time, because as a salesperson, while I love to lead, I love to nurture my team, I love to teach. I love to teach hands-on, and I will teach and lead based on what their specific need is and what they excel in. So I had a sales manager last year, and now she's a director of sales, and she wanted somebody, and it was one of the reasons I believe I was hired. She needed somebody that was very direct, that could help her be a little more polished. And I did not know what that word meant at the time. I was like, sure, I can fix that. and but she didn't need fixing. She just needed to see she just needed to hear how I talked. So we would role play, and she'd watch me on sales calls, and I would have her do mock presentations. I helped prep her for her interview, but I made her do all the work, right? Because you're not going to learn if you don't do the work. I'm not going to do it for you. I can lead you to water, but I'm not going to make you drink, and I'm not going to waste my time if you don't want to do it. So I approach every single person that comes into my sales office during a one-on-one very differently. I had a sales coordinator who's now in catering sales, who wanted to be in events, and she wanted to move to that next level. So for her, I worked with her. She was more logical and visual. So I taught her how to use the numbers and what she was good at to connect with her clients, but also use those numbers as her reward system. She was always motivated by goals. And so she would exceed her goals if I kept reminding her, like gave her a visual target, like here's your visual target. But then I would also remind her, don't do a script. I hate scripts. I know they tell us to do scripts. They have a purpose, they have a place. But for me, even from a leadership standpoint, I don't have a how-to. It's like a parent. You don't get a manual when you have a baby. You got to figure it out as you go. So that's how I am as a leader. I work collaboratively because I learn from them as much as they learn from me. And then I hold them accountable. I show them where they're at. I don't hide anything. I don't sugarcoat anything. And if I know that I'm getting pushed down from top up, I may eloquently say it in a different way so that I can reach them based on how they listen and learn. But you can't, none of my people can tell you, like, they know exactly where they at. They know exactly what I'm dealing with. And that I don't hide anything. And that develops trust. I mean, we're in sales. We got to have trust.
Right? Transparency. It's definitely fundamental. That's amazing, because in the end of the day too, I think this role play, right? Like, hey, she comes with me and shadow me on calls, right? Like I wish, right? Like I think there is like that opportunity to learn when you do that type of thing. So I love that.
Mm-hmm. And then you asked about managing my general managers.
Yes.
It was a very unique experience moving here from Michigan from one GM to having two and now three. They are very, I could not paint a very different picture for each one. So I have a very stoic, calm, my rock. I can be passionate. I can vent to him. It doesn't matter. I can say it like it is. I can be heated in the moment, and he's not going to hold it against me. And he's the person I 9 times out of 10 will go to. Right. Just because also he's been in this industry for a long time. I respect him. He's very great with his team. And so I look at him, we look at family dynamics, he's like the older brother. And then I have the middle child, and ironically, he is the middle child in his family. He is just as passionate as I am, very driven. At the end of the day, he wants what's best for the asset, just like I do. I mean, Brian does too, but he's very passionate. He's very reactory. So with him, my dad always said, sometimes you got to dial the volume back on your personality, right? And so I'm the calm one for him. I'm the one to be able to sit there and be like, yep, Yeah. Okay. So here's what we're going to do about it. And him and I work very collaboratively in that way. We respect each other. He knows I'm passionate. We both have our moments where we're weak and we're fiery together. But by the time we like work it out, we're good to go. And his expectations is simply just do my job, which I love. He's not a micromanager. My third general manager is a words of affirmation person. So he needs, he's like the youngest child of the mix. Ooh, sorry, my lighting again. And he's got a heart of gold. He would give the shirt off his back to whoever. He is very charismatic. He comes from a sales background, which is very unique and different, but it's old school sales. So it's like new school sales, old school sales. So we have our moments. And so for me with him, to get him on board, it is very, you sit back, you let him talk, you hear his point of view, and it's all about compromise with him. And leading him in that direction and kind of hand holding a little bit, but also because I know he's a words of affirmation person, I know that a compliment goes a long way.
But I love that, words of affirmation person, because I think in the end of the day, even if we are in sales, but he, like, for example, you have a general manager, you are doing your job, you're doing your best to, manage your team and deliver the numbers. But also, I think those words of affirmation are so important, for whatever step of the way. Yeah, like with moderation. Yeah, of course, it's not everything, right? Like in life, it needs a little bit of moderation, but also it's different, right? Like when you have experiences in different hotels, and then or in different part of your own experience, right? Like, oh, now you're more seasonal, area manager than when 15 years ago when you just started. But I think it's so important, like, hey, good job, you're doing amazing, but also have holding that person accountable, right? For the numbers, for, oh, we only need $50,000 to close the quarter and in good shape, or oh, we didn't close because of XYZ. So it's like, also, I think there is a fine line between the operations team and the sales team, because in the end of the day, the goal is the same, right? Like, we need to deliver to the guests and we need to deliver to ownership. So both, sides can win and present itself, right? But I think it's also, this leads to my next question, in in terms of the fluency, right? Like, how fluid is, in your opinion, the operations team needs to be with the sales team?
Oh, yes. Yes. So for me, and I learned this during an interview process, that job just didn't work out. And they were really looking for somebody that was you could almost be friends with your general manager as a director of sales. They said if your director of sales and your GM get along, the numbers are going to reflect that at some point. Like, there's a ramp up period. But so for me, I keep that in the back of my mind. I definitely took that to heart. So from an operations perspective and from a general manager's perspective, working in sales, yes, it has to be collaborative, but it is so important to just let the sales team do their job. Work with them collaboratively as far as strategy. Please come out with me on site visits. Send me leads, please. Work with the front desk. I mean, everyone sells. We have a culture where everyone sells, and I agree with that. But when it comes to rate strategy and working with clients directly, as a director of sales and a sales team already in place, we got to be the ones that build that relationship and build that trust at the end of the day. So for me, we have a directive where the general managers need to be 80% in sales. I think there's a way to do that. And I think there's a wrong way to do that. having a general manager that is quoting rates outside of strategy, and being smart, is very difficult for a seasoned director of sales. And then there's those general managers that are like, I have no idea. I trust you. That's why I hired you. Here you go. I probably work best with that person. Now I'll tell you, I'm the first person to tell you if I screw up. But there's a way to do it and there's not a way to do it. And I think in this day and age, especially with young sales people out there, and just the way the younger working workers are, nobody wants to be micromanaged. So I like, and you're going to hear me say collaborative probably 10 times. It could probably be a game. But I think there's a right way and a wrong way. And I think general managers should absolutely be involved, but you need to include your sales manager or director of sales in building that relationship from the start. And letting them make the call. And then if they're not making the call, then you're right. Then you might not have the right person in place.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think a part of that, also it's that trust, right? Like between the operations team and the sales team, because for example, also one thing that I've learned early in my career when I was in hotels is you can't sell a dream of, I don't know, a spa vacation to a business person that when you don't have a freaking spa in your hotel, like you can't, sell. Oh, it's like I saw something this week on LinkedIn. A friend, posted something. Oh, I'm selling. You can have unlimited sunset views by the pool when the hotel has no pool. you know
Yeah.
So you can't sell that, if you don't have a pool, you only have like a lake, right? Or vice versa. But it's like knowing your product, knowing your team, what your team can offer, like I think there is a fine line too when you talked about the person that wanted to be in events and now she's handling all the events, right? Like there is sales teams in place so they can deliver, right?
Yeah.
And that person can be accountable for a successful event and
Yes.
actually deliver to the banquet, person and be there to supervise if anything goes wrong. Because, during an event, lots of things can go wrong, right? Like I
Absolutely.
was in a meeting the other day. It was like a early morning, was raining, and then the internet at the hotel was down. So I
Oh
was
no.
like, okay, I felt bad for the hotel people. And I was like, you know what? I don't need the internet of the meeting room to be working because I can, pay attention what the people are saying, right? We did have to log in for something, but then I was like, who doesn't have, data share on their phone? Like
Oh yeah.
everybody has, right? So then I'm thinking, that's not a problem. And they were like so apologetic, apologizing all the time. And I was like, guys, you're fine. Like, I don't, it happens. If the hotel Wi-Fi is down, so be it. This is
Yeah.
not we're not, what is it? Like we like to say, we're not saving lives here.
Well, I know people who have. But that's why we have CPR training. But no, you're right. We're problem solvers. There's a quote from The Ugly Truth from 2009. It's a rom-com. It's amazing. You have to watch it. One of the very first lines is, and I quote it all the time, is there are no problems. There are only solutions. So whenever somebody
Amazing.
says there's a problem to me, I'm like, no, there's a solution. How can I help?
Amazing. I love it. But I think having this being like working really closely, right, with the operations team is just, that's what is going to translate in the end of the day. People that are customers that they will come back, people that are going to recommend your hotel. And one thing that I've learned too, back in the early days, right, is that you can go ahead and ask for a repeated business as soon as this, event okay, we close an event, perfect, a week past, thank you, here's your folio. or a few
Mhm.
days, or God forbid it's a week, right? Like, because I know you have like timely manner to do everything, but
That's
ask
what
for that
activities are for.
repeated business, right? Ask for that
Yeah.
repeated business, because the earlier they book, the better the rates,
Yeah.
right? And you can always upsell. Oh, we can throw you, another, I don't know, complimentary champagne, for uh early bookers, right? Like, so
Yep.
something like on those lines. I always use those, oh, we can offer you a happy hour, at the rooftop
Mhm.
for complimentary, if you book by the end of the month, for next year. So
Yeah.
it's always like knowing what clients to use those types of perks, right?
Yes. Adaptive selling. I love it. Yep.
Yeah.
You and
So
I
I
were both
want to
taught in
hear
that.
I wanted to hear from you, in terms of that particular dynamic, right? Like, are you a closer? Like, do you ask for the business, uh, you know, sooner than later, or you're just like, oh, I sent them a proposal last
No.
month and I'm gonna wait.
I don't want to give all my secrets. No.
No, this is
There's
like
a reason I'm
you
successful.
sign up for the podcast. Share your secret sauce. Let's go, Nikki.
No, I don't. And I tell my sales team, don't send a proposal. Don't send a contract and let them know, like put the proposal in the email, have that contract ready to go attached because in this day and age, it's so important. Speed is so important. Sometimes it's unrealistic. Like there are certain metrics you and I have talked about where it can be a little unrealistic, but for the most part, the early bird gets the worm. And so when you are fast and you ask for the business, always ask for the business. They teach you that in every brand sales training ever. Um, so I always go straight to contract. I don't do a proposal. I do a proposal in an email. Now, is there a time and place? Yes. I know with big corporations, there is, they have their own clauses. It has to go through a proposal setting. Of course, like we just talked about, be adaptive. But I always tell my sales managers, ask for the business. If you don't ask, you might not get it. And then your conversion rate is going to go up significantly. Old school sellers typically do proposals first, but that is not the day and age that we are in. They are booking shorter term, like less than 30 days. So it's so important to go right to contract now more than ever.
Yeah, I love that too, because one thing is, oh, I will send you a proposal. Like, I'm like, no, I'm just gonna send you the data
Yeah.
right now. Okay. And then I love when the negotiation, come along, because people are always like, oh, can I get this because I got XYZ at your competitor? I'm like, okay, no, I already told you all the amenities that I'm offering, and I'm better than the competitor. So if you want to go ahead with that because it's like, $10 cheaper, so be it, but in the end of the day too, I think having that rate integrity at
Yeah.
times, and learn
Yes.
how to say no to, like, I don't know, as an association, that it is
Yes.
coming back every year, right?
Yeah.
And every year is the same negotiation. So you learn the pattern of the client.
Yes. So I agree with you. I think that is a market to market condition scenario. I agree. Rate integrity is so important because once you go down, it's so hard to fix it and go back up. I mean, I did that for my residence in 2021, and I don't want to go down. It makes me sick to my stomach. But because our convention center is down in Cincinnati, um, we have full service hotels selling at rates that I haven't even seen in sales in a very, very long time because everyone is hurting. And with the recession that I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it, we're about to be in a recession. It's just going to be a domino effect. Denver's hurting, Cincinnati's hurting. I know Detroit's hurting. I don't know about DC, but I'm sure DC is hurting right now. So with that said, if you don't have anything, sometimes you got to do what you got to do and and rip the band-aid off just to get some base business in. But be smart, right? Don't do that with every single group. Don't fill up over half your hotel at a low rate. you're going to hurt everybody else. You're not just hurting your own hotel and your ownership and your asset. You're hurting other assets in the market as well by lowering your rate. And just, I think it's like a race to the bottom is what we call it. But also don't be proud and empty. Like that's my other phrase that I hear all the time.
Yeah, yeah. And I love, that you brought this up too, because I remember when I was very green, right? Like a director of sales, I had this hotel in Long Island City, New York. It was a Marriott product, beautiful hotel, amazing, Manhattan views. So I sold the views, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this view, look at this view. And everything that I said was view, 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 view to the clients, right? But in the end of the day, it's also like I remember this revenue manager said, Wilka, lowering rates is not going to create demand.
Yes, absolutely. Old school revenue management makes my heart leap. I love that.
But like what that stick with me for a long time. And like nowadays and all of the AI tools for revenue management. And like I remember in my last hotel, before leaving that hotel world, I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. This, tool, I can see rates of everybody on my comp set. And we are always so focused in our comp set, right? But then even like here for DC, there's so many different neighborhoods. And that, like, oh my God, a hotel in Georgetown, that's a beautiful area, beautiful neighborhood. Now, is that a mid-scale hotel there? Yes, there is, right? It's not all the 5 stars only. Same thing for, convention hotels, conventions, like right there on the city center. But, there is locations, there is different types of clients that need different amenities, right? And I really think the independent hotels, in the end of the day too, they're so flexible, right? Because you can do anything and everything. But one thing that people forget at times is they don't have the brand marketing to
Correct.
push them.
Yep.
Right. So it's like it's really hard to be in a market when you are an independent hotel, like here when I came to DC, 15 years ago, or why not, to have that type of segmentation. But I wanted to hear like your experience, with also revenue management and using tools, the AI tools. Tell me about that.
So for our revenue management meetings, we work with a third party because when I came on, I went through maybe within my first 6 months and remember I was a dual when I first came here. And they were both Marriotts. So we went through 5 Marriott revenue managers in like 6 months, maybe to a year. And that's just too much, right? That's too much. So our company saw a need to go outside of that. And so we work with Prosper Hotels. Some of the hotels have good, you're only as good as your revenue manager, in my opinion. So not only do you have to have a good relationship with your general manager, you need to have a good relationship with your revenue manager. And so I have 2 very, very good revenue managers. And in my career, never mind. I can't get, because Amara might see this. No, I've had 3 really good revenue managers in my time, that I absolutely adore. Don't get me wrong, the ones that I had with Ambridge were great, but I was still new to sales. But when I opened that Hyatt, that revenue manager and I still talk to her to this day, and she's amazing. And then, but then when I came and I got my Prosper people, they were awesome. And so relationships are so important. In addition, we use Demand 360 to look at our comp set. Hilton has another revenue strategy on Amadeus as well that we use for my Hampton. And then I use Hotelligence as a prospecting tool, but not for necessarily my revenue management meetings. We use my Marriott, we use One Yield. We look at Fosse, we look at Delphi. I mean, we cover the gambit as far as tools go with Commonwealth, which is great. And then with my Hilton, we use Grow. We don't like Grow. we kind of just do our own thing right now. But we use our R&I and whatnot. But Marliese is fantastic. Kyle's fantastic. So shout out to them.
Awesome. I mean, I love that you have to, acknowledge that the revenue team has to be also in the same uh inputs and insights coming from you, that you are on property, right? Like,
They
but
might do
also
something that you don't.
exactly. And another point is also, I remember back in my hotel days, right? Like I had another situation with a revenue manager. Oh, the OTAs and we are paying commission, and every time it's the same conversation, a very big pain point for lots of hotels. And then I said to him, I was like, you know what? Sorry, it's DC. I had a conversation with my GM. I said, I'm a rebel, I'm gonna do this directly with, this OTA in particular, because I know it works. I just came from a property down the street and it was
Yep.
amazing. So it's like sometimes you got to take risks and sometimes you got to make decisions that is not going to be everybody's going to be on board, but in the end of the day, like
Yes.
you said, the goal is let's make money. I
Yes.
don't have any business to give it to you to cover July in DC, because nobody's here. So if I do something else, also go ahead and do the math, right? Like you're still uh profiting, and that's in the end of the day the goal, right? Like you need to be
Yes.
profitable, because you can't resell a room that was not sold yesterday, right?
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, it costs money to keep an empty room at the end of the day. And with revenue management, I mean, and we're looking at our comp set and, rate integrity. And I mean, we talk about all of that, but also when you have a good revenue manager that you trust and you work with, you throw so many different wild ideas at the wall when you need to do something. And your revenue manager, when you have a good one, if it doesn't work, they'll be the first to tell you this did not work. They'll also be the first to tell you to be like, look, we can't change this every day. It's not going to work. We have to try it. And then if it doesn't work, then we'll transition. We'll do something else. And so it's so nice to have that with both of my revenue managers, because I've had some not great ones. I mean, you've probably had some not great ones where they're not paying attention to your inventory, or your rates out there, like in July on like a peak day for me would be selling at $99 when it should be selling at $299 because we have a special event. So I mean, you and I are going to be out on the ground selling to the people, but they're responsible for the remaining of inventory. That's how I look at it. That's their segmentation. That's the segmentation
Yeah,
I give my managers. Your retail.
exactly. It's like you got to be making sure that your distribution, right, it's nice and set in stone, but also being flexible, right? Like in
Mm-hmm.
terms of uh, how are they managing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love this. And, I can be talking to you about sales all day, but I know, we both have lives. I just,
What?
I just wanted to get your input, maybe top three tips for people that wanted to, have a successful career path in hospitality.
Yes. So this is different than the question you asked earlier. Oh,
Yes. This is like for the salespeople there earlier, but I think now it's like you can be a salesperson, right? You can
yeah.
start in sales and you can think that you're successful. But like,
Yeah.
for example, a successful career path in hospitality can be from software, it can be from connectivity, right? It
Oh,
can
yeah. Okay. So more roles.
exactly in different roles.
Yes. I would say if you are a love of people, you love people, I would say sales is for you. That's my easy one. And in sales, you can be successful. You can start as sales coordinator, go all the way up to an area. Hi, I'm an area director of sales. I'm on property. But then there's my boss who's amazing, and she's a field director of sales to VP of sales for a management company. If you are more technical and logical and numbers, revenue management would be great for you. And you could become a director of revenue management. You could work in the brand. If you like people, but want a variety and you don't want to be bored, but you're on the go all the time, I would say being a general manager is for you. Because general managers are everywhere and anywhere, and they have to make sure the wheels are rolling. And you have to have leadership skills for at the end of the day. So if you don't have leadership skills, get with somebody and learn. I mean, just learn from somebody. Be humble. Be humble.
I
This
love
industry is
that.
all about being humble and
That's
kind.
exactly what, I think it's a motto, right? Like for a lot of people, like you have to be humble. You don't get places, you don't get to positions, you don't get to start in a hospitality career making six figures. And this is it's why we have these conversations with different folks in the hospitality industry. Nikki, thank you so much for being here today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Of course, it was so fun to catch up with you and reconnect.
Yes.
But yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for listening, and more to come on Director of Sales episodes. Take care.
Bye. Bye.